Okay, good afternoon everyone and welcome to another RISB Masterclass webinar. And we've got a great speaker today, Hope Steele from TrackSAFE Foundation. But before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands where we meet today. And I'm in Adelaide, so that's the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge any First Nations people who might be with us today. As I mentioned, Hope Steele from TrackSAFE is here today to talk to us about the TrackSAFE Foundation, working together to save lives. And this is also relevant coming up to Rail Are You OK Day this coming Thursday. And for those that aren't aware, the rail industry was the first industry to have its own Are You OK Day? And we're now joined with Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds who have their own industry Are You OK Day as well. Hope has more than 20 years experience in communications, marketing, advocacy and managing strategic partnerships in the not-for-profit sector. Hope joined TrackSAFE Foundation in January 2021, following roles with the Cancer Council and more than a decade at RSPCA Australia. Hope has first-hand experience in developing engagement initiatives to raise awareness of social issues in an effort to drive behaviour change. Hope has a Bachelor of Arts Communications Journalism from Charles Sturt University. And before I hand over to Hope, if you have any questions, as always, just put them in the chat, and when we get to the end of the presentation, I'm sure Hope will be happy to address them. So without any further delay, I'll hand over to you, Hope.
Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Reggie, for making today happen and the team at RISB. I'll just share my screen, so bear with me. Of course, I can't see anyone now, but I'll assume you can see that. It's just taking a little bit of time to go to slideshow. Just jump in, Reggie. I'll just hear from you if there's a tech issue. Thank you. Thumbs up. Thank you all for your time today. I'm really pleased to represent TrackSAFE on today's RISB Masterclass. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're each joining from today, their elders past and present. And for me, I'm here in Canberra and I pay my respects to the Ngunnawal people. So I just wanted to start today just with a bit of a flag that today I will be talking about mental health and suicide prevention. So if you need any extra support, really encourage you to reach out to someone you trust or connect with a professional service like Lifeline in Australia, or also Lifeline in New Zealand. But we've also got a range of employee wellbeing materials on our website, which you might like to have a look at as well. So many of you will know a bit about TrackSAFE, but again, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to find out a little bit more about what we do. So I'm going to start today by sort of talking through TrackSAFE's key priorities and the work we're very much focused on in the year ahead, and sort of finish the presentation with some information about Are You OK? So really some guidance about having an Are You OK conversation in light of Rail Are You OK Day on Thursday. So we are a registered harm prevention charity. We are a very small team. Sorry, my slides are moving by themselves for some reason. We're a very small team, and our focus is really about saving lives and impacting people and improving the economy and efficiency around rail. We are governed by a board of directors who represent a variety of organisations across the rail supply chain. Danny Broad is our chair, and while there's just two of us, myself and Heather, who work for TrackSAFE, we're really fortunate that we have an amazing team of partnerships and I guess broadly, a broad range of stakeholders across the sector that really do help implement our work and make an impact. So the three key areas TrackSAFE focuses on is reducing fatalities and injuries or near hits on the Australian rail network, and tragically, the largest proportion of fatalities as a result of suicide. So I will touch on that shortly. We also want to increase community awareness of safety on and around rail. And then also we spend quite a lot of time looking at how we can support the wellbeing of the rail workforce, including best practice trauma management. But if we can do a really good job of those first two initiatives, hopefully we will reduce our exposure to trauma for the rail workforce. So just to provide a little bit of data to start with. So on the left here, you'll see an average. This relates to an average of 2016 to 2023 data, an average of 74 fatalities from suicide and 64 attempted suicides that don't result in a fatality. There are around 22 trespasser fatalities and injuries, 23 fatalities and injuries at level crossings, and over 1,700 near hits. And we know that that number is probably much lower than an actual number. And then on the right side here, some data from the light rail network. So an average of one fatality each year and 143 injuries. And unfortunately, there are suicide attempts on the light rail network as well. You can see the data here of the Australian national data really does bounce around, but what is very concerning is the Victorian data. So around half of suicide on rail in Australia occurs in Victoria, and that's because it's a very open network. We can see the numbers in New South Wales. The orange data has declined, and New South Wales, Sydney in particular, where most suicide occurs, is largely fenced. So I'll touch on some of the work we're doing in Victoria, that how we're looking at to reduce these numbers. So these are key suicide prevention measures that TrackSAFE we're very much focused on, and these are based on research from Professor Jane Purkis and her team at Melbourne University. So they spend a lot of time looking at how we can reduce fatalities in public places, suicide in public places. We want to restrict access to means. That's critical. It's 91 to 93% effective. We want to encourage people to seek help, so through initiatives like our program with Lifeline, which I'll touch on as well. We want to increase the likelihood of intervention by a third party, and we've spent quite a lot of time working on the rail workforce and how we can upskill the rail workforce to intervene with someone who might be at risk. And then finally, responsible media reporting of suspected suicide and guidelines for journalists, but also how suicide is conveyed by the rail workforce. So considering language and minimising information about method and location is really important. We know that there are, I guess, frustrated commuters who might be stuck on a train and, delayed by a number of hours when incidents occur, but what and how information is communicated to people on the train, at stations, is critically important, and minimising information about method and location. And it's a real balance, I think, and credit to the operators, because they do have that balance of, keeping customers calm and safe, but at the same time providing adequate information to let them know what they're dealing with. One of the really positive things from the level crossing removal projects was, has been a reduction in suicide in Victoria. So clearly the intent of removing level crossings for a number of reasons, and looking at how to improve the efficiency of the Victorian transport network. But this has been a really pleasing additional outcome. And we know Dr. Angela Clapperton and Jane Purkis and the team are continuing to look at this research, and are likely to have some more research findings by the end of this year as to the positive impact level crossing removals has, because it removes access to the network. One of the pieces of research that we commissioned last year to really help our argument of increasing fencing on the Victorian network is a piece of work we did with Oxford Economics Australia. And this is the economic impact of incidents on the Victorian network. where they've looked at data from the MTM team and also the V-Line team. And the economic impact, as you can see, is significant, very significant. And this is a very, I guess, modest or conservative report. So it doesn't include animal strikes on the V-Line network. And so with this report, we've made recommendations to the Victorian government, to the Minister of Transport, Department of Transport, the opposition, and my colleague Heather has spent a significant amount of time looking at how we can really, I guess, see an investment in fencing in future Victorian budgets. We also play a role in industry of, I guess, bringing stakeholders together and looking at new detection and prevention measures. So this camera here is an example of a system being used in Denmark on unmanned stations, unstaffed stations. And we also really advocate for, I guess, looking at options for retrofitting stations to improve safety. For new builds, on-screen doors is obviously really important. But we hold knowledge shares a couple of times a year on different subject matters to really try to, I guess, spread the word and our level of understanding and insight into what's happening in Australia and around the world. This is the example of our help-seeking campaign, which I mentioned, and our partnership with Lifeline. This has been running since 2017, and it's had two pieces of sort of research into its effectiveness over that time. We continue to run this on the network because we know that it does encourage people to seek help. I'll just share with you, the sound might not work, but this is just an example of the digital advertising that is served to people on and around the network. So essentially, it's encouraging people to pause, call, be heard. We currently have this in market in Victoria. We've received some funding from the Department of Transport and Planning Victoria to run a digital campaign that geo-targets people on and around the rail network. So we look at parts of the corridor and stations and geo-target in a 2-kilometre radius for people on and around rail. And we've also just started a trial of the text-based service that Lifeline is offering. We're trialling this in a small part of the network in Victoria. Text is a relatively new aspect of Lifeline's service offering, and they're really wanting to make sure that they can continue to service it. So we're just doing a bit of a trial, a pilot to see what the engagement's like for that. And then just the picture up in the top right corner, we're also encouraging people to look at Lifeline's other services. So they have a great section on their website, which is essentially a toolkit, and they've curated lots of different information and resources and apps to help people who might be struggling with different aspects of their mental health. And encourage you to have a look at that. It's something we also promote to the rail workforce as another resource from Lifeline. Finally, in that bottom left corner, we've got signage across the network, and we know from our research with Lifeline that the combination of signage and digital advertising is most effective. So we continue to have this in key locations on the rail network. So I mentioned earlier, hopefully you heard it, our suicide prevention training. This is specific training for the rail workforce. It's 30 minutes. It's free. I'd encourage you to jump onto our website, so tracksafetraining.com, and register. We've got a white list in the back end of that. So for organisations that are from rail and you have a rail email address, then you can register and complete this training. And from our first analysis, so again, Dr. Angela Clapperton at the University of Melbourne has looked at the effectiveness, and it's really pleasing to see that that this is having an impact. And the training is very much about teaching you how to spot the signs that someone might be at risk, how to intervene safely, but then also how to keep yourself safe. I'll just quickly touch on Rail Safety Week. So it will be here before we know it, the 11th to the 17th of August this year. It's our 20th anniversary, and TrackSAFE's role is very much about providing information, resources, data, and campaign materials that anyone in the industry can pick up and use. So this is just a bit of a snapshot of our passenger rail campaign. So key behaviours, phone down, look up, pause your tunes, listen for trains, and really, I guess, basic but necessary safety messages. And we provide this information through a digital toolkit. So something I'm working on at the moment is updating our toolkit for the year. And you can come onto our website, you can download the materials, you can share these within your own organisation, and I encourage you to do that. We've also had these translated into 10 key languages for cultural and linguistically diverse audiences. This is our regional rural campaign, so expect the unexpected, watch out for trains. I'm going to play our radio ad. Hopefully you hear it, but it's also available on our website. It's been voiced by Shane Jacobson, fellow train lover. And we, again, really encourage you to look at how you can get involved and promote our regional messages.
G'day folks, it's Shane Jacobson. There's a charm about regional Australia, the lifestyle, the open road, but whether you're a local or just passing through, think about the other traveller, trains. They might be running day or night and often when we least expect it. But unlike cars, they can't swerve or stop in a hurry. Trains are part of our landscape. So the rule when driving in regional Australia, expect the unexpected and always watch out for trains. A community service message from TrackSAFE. G'day folks, it's G'day.
Just quickly touch on our education materials. So we have a licensing agreement with Mattel, and that allows us to use Thomas and Friends, and we developed our first education kit for early childhood services and preschool. So this is aimed to target 3 to 5 year olds, and the kit is a standalone kit that educators in those centres can download and deliver and present to their students. And just like learning to cross the road, ride your bike, we see rail safety as a skill for life. So that's been downloaded by close to 600 early childhood centres now. To the right, we have a primary school education kit, and it's curriculum aligned, a similar structure where it's set up for teachers to download and present. It's something that we know is essential, and what I'm really hoping people on this call might be able to help us out, and I'll put a bit of a challenge out to you. If this week you can take the time to promote this to either your own kids' schools, perhaps it's your neighbour who have kids in early childhood centres, could be your grandkids. But I think in some way we all have a connection to schools in our community, and we really do need your advocacy as people working in rail to make sure that this is out there and people know it's there and that it's really simple to deliver. We've got some information on our website. People can register for the kit on our website and download it straight away. But also there's a couple of promo flyers on each page. So you could simply just download that flyer, print it out or email it to a centre near you, and we'd really appreciate your support doing that. Just a little bit of a run through of what we do in railway crossing safety. So, of course, there's our campaigns, but we're also a member of the National Level Crossing Safety Committee and Industry Advisory Committee. So Danny Broad attends those meetings on behalf of TrackSAFE. We, are also part of a number of different working groups in Victoria and New South Wales. Our early childhood kit and primary school education kit also form part of that. So railway crossing safety is a key element of those education resources. During Rail Safety Week this year, we will host another webinar focused on railway crossing safety projects. There's amazing stuff happening out there. Sometimes we're all a little bit siloed, so our job is to try and bring together information and relevant projects that are underway and to provide some updates from people running those initiatives. And then we're also a member of different international groups, very much focused on information sharing. So when it comes to resilience and wellbeing, we spend a lot of time around how we can advocate for best practice trauma management in the rail workforce. And we work very closely with Phoenix, who are based at the Centre for Post-Traumatic Stress at Melbourne University, and who are leaders in this space. And we've developed a trauma management framework, which is free on our website, and you can jump on there and download the framework. It's very much about what does best practice trauma management look like, what is the structure, and something you might be able to implement in your workforce. We host a number of different wellbeing webinars. So just last week, we had our first for the year, which was adjusting to retirement and other life challenges. We help facilitate mental health first aid in the workplace. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the Lifeline Support Toolkit is another thing that we promote within the rail workforce. Whole stack of information on our website. We've got an info hub, which you can jump on and have a look at our resources there. So that's kind of the snapshot of TrackSAFE, and I'm conscious of the time. I'll do my best to whiz through this in 15 minutes, and then happy to answer any questions. So I wanted to just, given it's Rail Are You OK Day this Thursday, it's our 11th Rail Are You OK Day, and to, I guess, share with you a little bit of background and also upskill anyone on the call around the importance of having a conversation and how to have a conversation, because I think it's a skill we can all learn and certainly implement. So Are You OK was created by the late Gavin Larkin, and I think he says it really well. In the time it takes to have a cuppa, you could start a conversation that could change your life. And Gavin and his family were impacted by suicide following the death of his father. And Gavin was an advertising person, and he thought, what can I do to help raise awareness and to reduce stigma, and created Are You OK? And Rail Are You OK was created by the industry and by TrackSAFE 11 years ago, because rail does have a lot of challenges within our workforce. And we're really proud that it's continued to grow year after year. I think it's also really important just to highlight that Gavin's statement here, it is also backed by research, so that we know connection and belonging are protection factors against suicide. So making a connection with someone, whether it's over a cuppa or going for a walk at lunchtime, there's evidence there that is a protection factor for suicide. So Are You OK talks to the help giver. So Are You OK is very much about building confidence and skills of the help giver to be able to spot the signs that someone might be struggling and how to help. And really, this slide indicates that we're part of a support network. And within our workplace, we spend a lot of time with our colleagues. We do get to know our colleagues really well. It's important to highlight you don't have to be a counsellor to ask, are you okay? You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to be a good listener. And that's something to really remind us, for Are You OK Day on Thursday, but throughout the year, that we're part of, I guess, an ecosystem, and we really can help someone who might be struggling. So life happens every day. We know 59% of Australians experience at least one personal stressor in the course of the year. And we also know that 2 in 5 are experiencing high to very high levels of stress. This can be a result of a number of things. And when we say life happens every day, there are financial stresses, there are stresses such as from grief and loss. It could be mental ill health. It could be illness or injury that is causing a stress to someone. It could be having a new baby in the household and sleep deprivation and family challenges. There's a whole host of things that we're not immune to, and also our colleagues aren't. One of the things that is really key is asking early and asking often. So not waiting until someone is in crisis, spotting the signs and noticing that someone just might not see them themselves, and having that conversation early can go a long way in providing them an opportunity to open up and share what's going on. and building trust and rapport with our colleagues. So when people are asked, are you okay, they're more likely to feel a number of these things. So we know there's, so Are You Okay tracks this quarterly through their research, and we know that people feel relieved, they feel connected, they can feel understood and grateful and heard. Again, you don't have to solve what's going on in their lives. You don't need to be a counsellor, but a good listener. So this year's theme for Rail Are You Okay is Ask Are You Okay Any Day. And what we've really seen over the 11 years of Are You Okay is a cultural change and a cultural appreciation within different workforces for the importance of Are You Okay conversations, reducing stigma, and just normalising talking about our mental health, just like we might talk about our physical health. And while Thursday shines a spotlight on Are You Okay within our industry, it's really a chance of kickstarting the conversation and having that conversation any day. I'm sure many of you on the call have felt one or more of these barriers to asking, are you okay? You know, sometimes we feel like we don't want to invade someone's privacy. We don't want to say the wrong thing. That's always a worry. We don't want to embarrass someone, and not quite sure how to solve problems. So, it might be easier just not to ask. But really, asking is incredibly important, and I can take you through really what a meaningful conversation looks like. So what we want people to feel is supported and heard and safe to have these conversations. And also that, you know, there might be, additional things that we can do to support them and follow on from that. So I'll take you through the steps of having an Are You Okay conversation. So what should you ask? When should you ask? What are they saying? What are they doing? What are you sensing is going on? As I said, you know, we spend a lot of time with our colleagues, and we can get to know whether something's not quite right. And really, we're wanting to, I guess, open the door for having a conversation about what's happening in their world. One of the really important things before you do that is asking yourself, am I ready? So am I in a good place to have this conversation? Am I in a good headspace? Am I distracted? Am I ready to listen and actively listen and really, stop what's going on in my own head for the moment and set aside the time for a genuine conversation? And that's what's really important is thinking through this and picking the right time to have that conversation. So 4 steps of this conversation, we sort of refer to it as ALEC. So asking, are you okay? Listening, encouraging action, and checking in. And so just some, simple tips as to how you might want to ask, are you okay? So I've noticed you're not quite yourself. Is everything okay? It could be encouraging them to go for a walk and finding a quiet space just to say, is there something on your mind? You seem a bit distracted. Sometimes it's worth just practicing these things so we don't feel like we're stuck and unsure of how to start the conversation. As I said earlier, active listening is really important. So taking the time to really be still and be in the moment, and really genuinely listening as to what this person is saying. It's a big deal when someone shares with us what's going on in their world. And I think having that genuine conversation means really being there to listen and help them also consider options for what they might need moving forward. And for some people, encouraging action, it could be, have you been talking to your family about this, or coming to an agreement about what are some of the first steps that you might be able to take. Not feeling like you're forcing action on someone, but really getting them to think about, is this impacting their life? Has it been going on for a while, and do they need to speak to their doctor about this? One of the things that might happen in an "Are you okay" conversation is having strong emotional reactions. So what's really important is keeping yourself calm and also looking after yourself. So managing your own emotions and remembering it's not personal, it's not about you, but this is someone expressing their feelings and really, again, trying to let that happen in the moment, which can be really challenging when it is happening, but something to just remind yourself of if that happens to you. And there's also a range of different support networks that you might need, but also the person you're having a chat with might also want to reach out to. Another really important piece of "Are you okay" is circling back and checking in. So this is something that, we might forget, but is really important about connection and coming back to have a chat with that person as to how they're doing and if there's anything else they might want to chat about, or are they still feeling the same way, or do they need some additional support? So that's something, we can often get really busy and I guess, carry on with our own lives, but checking in is a really critical step of having an "Are you okay" conversation. You can jump on our website. We have a range of Rail Are You OK resources. There's a stack there. There's lots of activities and initiatives that you might like to put in place in your workplace throughout the year. And this is just an example of our activity planner. So lots of different ideas here about continuing the conversation and getting your team on board. And a big shout out to all of our champions. We've got a few hundred champions who advocate for Rail Are You OK in their workplace, and without them sort of spreading the word and making sure this is top of mind, it certainly wouldn't be as successful as it is. So my question to you is, who will you ask? And again, a takeaway from today is just encouraging you to jump on our website and having a look at those resources and upskilling yourself to be able to have that really important conversation. Finally, TrackSAFE, we are a registered charity. We are funded by the rail industry, and we're incredibly proud to have these organisations provide us with a donation each year to continue our work. If you're interested, or your organisation is interested in supporting us, please feel free to reach out. And I think what is testament to the rail industry is just a very, I guess, collaborative approach to harm prevention, to suicide prevention, and supporting our strategic priorities. So thank you to these organisations. And again, thank you, Damien and the team at RISB, for having me today.
Great. Thank you so much, Hope. Well done. Dealing with all the technical problems as well. So we do have a few questions here, some from RISB staff beforehand and some that have come through on the chat. On the chat, well, first one, I'll sign up for the Adjusting to Retirement course. Thank you. The other one...
It was very popular, Damien. We had, I think, 280 people join that webinar. And we've had, so we've got a recording on the website. You can jump on and have a look at the recording. But it's interesting because, the rail, there's a large proportion of the rail workforce who will be facing retirement in the next 5 to 10 years, or closer than that. And, it's a real challenge for people who career is a big part of their identity. So we might even look at a second part of that subject, because a few people did sort of come back and say, look, what's part 2? Part 1 of the webinar provided some great tips, but we'll circle back to the industry with a follow-up, I think, because it's very relevant to the workforce.
Okay, thank you. One question, does TrackSAFE Foundation look into safety of rail workers due to overwork during major commissionings? I think that's, when there's major works happening, where the work goes over the allocated time. Does that get picked up, maybe not specifically, but more around occupational health and safety of rail workers?
Yeah, look, I guess OH&S for rail workers probably isn't a key part of our work. We certainly focus on well-being, mental fitness, mental support measures for the workforce. But yeah, clearly, production, construction pressures, commercial pressures is a really big challenge in the industry. So I think they certainly need to be considerations in a really good mental well-being strategy and how to eliminate issues around fatigue and subsequently, the impact to your physical health, but also your mental health.
Okay. Another one, what strategies have been most effective in changing public behaviour around rail safety?
Oh, that's a good one. Look, I think it's not a one size fits all. I think we need to be quite targeted as to the message we provide to people and the frequency we provide it. I think for us, Rail Safety Week is a great week in the spotlight on the issue. However, rail safety is every day, and members of the public, need to be reminded of this as frequently as possible. One of the things, sorry, I forgot to mention, was so we're just starting our work on our secondary school slash youth safety education. So this is a cohort which is really challenging to reach. So these are 12 to 17-year-olds. The challenges can be some of those more common safety behaviours on and around rail, but then there can also be, really high risk taking behaviours and, issues such as train surfing, deliberate trespass, high risk sort of trespass. And that's taken quite a bit of work to sort of get to a point where we've sort of got some recommendations and moving forward because um, traditionally heading into schools and teaching youth about rail safety is something that, is still, I guess, on the agenda, and many operators do an amazing job of that. But schools are a really hectic place. The curriculums are really busy place. And so we have to think about other ways to reach this audience.
Okay. Um, Another one, how do you deal with the situation where the person you are trying to help consistently denies anything is wrong?
Yeah, and that does happen with Are You Okay conversations. It could be a case of the person isn't ready to talk. It could be a case that the person maybe isn't ready to talk to you, or there could be another person that might be more they just might feel more comfortable with. So that's something to consider. Um, I think if someone is really struggling and you're starting to see that, yeah, it's you're becoming more and more concerned about it, then maybe it is having a conversation with a colleague to see if there's a way of helping that person and seeing if they would open up in another way.
And I guess the key point there, if, as you say, if you continue to be concerned, well, try another way or continue to keep checking in on the person. Does TrackSafe look at locomotive and or rail car lighting complying with best practice or industry code of practice, particularly at regional rail level crossings? I must admit I had a quick look, not that I wasn't listening to you, Hope, but I had a quick look on your website. There's an information hub and specifically a lot of work on level crossings. And so there's certainly I think the most recent Monash report. That's the basis of RISB's current review of the train lighting and visibility standard and some other resources there as well. But I don't know if you've got anything further to add there.
Look, I guess just from our perspective, we support industry research, and we support what measures that are going to improve safety of rail workers and members of the public. So while we're not specifically, I guess, involved in the doing, we will certainly support different projects and and bring together, as I said, our knowledge shares are really important for bringing together people working in this space and providing updates and developments.
Based on TrackSAFE's research, are there any emerging trends in rail-related incidents that need urgent attention?
We know that, I mean, it's not specifically research, but we know that there is a growing trend for an issue on rail, and we refer to these people as frequent presenters. So deliberate trespass on the rail network, not people aren't coming to rail to take their lives, but are coming to disrupt the network, it could be they could certainly injure themselves, or they're putting themselves at great risk of in some of the behaviours that are happening, and it is a problem that's occurring more. Our understanding is it's occurring more in Victoria. It occurs in other cities, but Victoria has a real spike in this deliberate trespass of frequent presenters. And again, the economic impact of that can be huge when people are trespassing on the network and trains need to stop. So that's something we're working with different stakeholders to look at, some of those trespass prevention measures, but it's not a simple solution. The demographics of frequent presenters, it is mostly younger people, women. There's a high proportion of younger women who are frequent presenters, and so something we're just really keen to understand more and what can be done in this space. We presented about 2 years ago, we brought the British Transport Police to a knowledge share and presented a program called the Hearts program. And it's been a very successful program run by Network Rail and the British Transport Police and the Samaritans in the UK. It's a, I guess, collective approach to managing the issue of frequent presenters, and almost as sort of like a case management approach, but it has paid dividends. So it's funded by Network Rail and has saved them. It's paid dividends in terms of reducing incidents and saving lives, but also the economic impact of frequent presenters. So we would really like to see something like this trialled in Australia, in Victoria in particular.
Okay. All right. Well, look, thank you very much. That's you got through all the questions unscathed. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And it's a great lead into Rail Are You OK this coming Thursday. And just to remind people online, the next webinar will be held on the 29th of April. And the title is Coexistence of Digital Systems, from Aaron Fraser, Director of Engineering at WebTech. So thank you again, Hope. Thanks everyone else for attending, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you.